Intelligence is not your greatest asset. In the raw, unforgiving landscape of human hierarchy, it is actually your most dangerous vulnerability. Most people spend their lives polishing their intellect, treating it like a badge of honor to be displayed at every social crossroads. They want to be seen as the smartest person in the room. They want the satisfaction of a corrected fact, the moral high ground of a won argument, and the validation of a nodding audience. But in the eyes of a true strategist, this is not power, it is vanity. And vanity is a loud, neon target painted on your chest. Arthur Schopenhauer, a man who viewed human nature with a cold, clinical detachment, understood a brutal truth that the modern world tries to bury. Brilliance is an offense to the mediocre. When you walk into a room and display your superior logic, you are not inspiring others. You are triggering a primal, physiological defense mechanism. The human ego is a fragile, defensive structure. It would rather burn down the entire world than admit it is outclassed. By showing your hand, you have not gained an ally, you have created a quiet, resentful enemy who will now wait for the exact moment you stumble to strike. This is the intelligence trap. You assume the rest of the world values the truth as much as you do. You operate under the fatal delusion that if you just present enough evidence, the other person will analyze the data and adjust their worldview. They won't. Psychology calls this the Dunning-Kruger effect, but Schopenhauer called it reality. People do not argue to find the truth, they argue to establish dominance. When you offer nuance to a fool, it is a translation error. You are speaking mathematics to a barking dog. So, why do we keep doing it? Because we are addicted to the friction. We feel the pressure building in our chests when we hear a flawed argument. We feel the twitch to fix the broken logic. But every time you engage, you are committing intellectual suicide. You are spending your finite, high-value caloric energy on a machine that cannot run your operating system. You leave the interaction exhausted, your mental bandwidth depleted, while the fool leaves energized, having successfully dragged a superior mind down into the mud. To escape this trap, you must adopt the predator's camouflage. You must kill the part of your ego that desperately wants to be recognized as right. True power is not about being acknowledged. It is about being effective. The most dangerous minds in history, the Machiavellis and the Simayis, did not walk through life with a crown of brilliance. They walked through it with a mask of mediocrity. They realized that your intelligence is a concealed weapon. You do not draw it to show off. You keep it hidden until the objective is already secured. You let the world believe you are harmless, invisible, and unimportant. Because when the world stops looking at you as a threat, they stop guarding the gates. And that is when you walk in and take everything. Arthur Schopenhauer lived in a world he considered an asylum of the irrational. He didn't view ignorance as a passive lack of information. He viewed it as an active, heavily armored defense mechanism. When you attempt to educate a person who is committed to their own delusion, you are not performing an act of charity. You are launching an invasion. To the fool, your logic is not a gift. It is a threat to their survival. The human ego will burn down the entire world before it admits it is wrong. This is the foundation of the philosophy of the void. The understanding that in a debate with a closed mind, truth has absolutely no currency. Most intelligent people suffer from a fatal optimism. You assume that if you break a concept down into its smallest atomic parts, the other person will eventually see the light. You draw diagrams, you use analogies, and you provide data. Yet they blink, stare at you, and repeat the exact same flawed argument they made 20 minutes ago. Why? Because you are projecting your own System 2, thinking, slow, deliberate, and logical, onto a System 1 machine that is fast, emotional, and instinctual. You are trying to install a sophisticated operating system on a typewriter. It is not a failure of your explanation, it is a limitation of their hardware. Schopenhauer's shield is the realization that you must stop trying to upgrade the world. This requires a radical, almost cold-blooded shift in your own psychology. You must embrace the void, a state where you no longer care if a lesser mind acknowledges your brilliance. Why do you need a blind man to compliment your painting? Why do you need a person who cannot process nuance to validate your strategy? When you drop the need to be recognized as right in their eyes, you become immune to their provocations. You stop giving them the remote control to your nervous system. This is the intellectual quarantine. In this state, you treat ignorance like a force of nature. You do not argue with a hurricane. You do not try to educate a flood. You simply board up the windows and seek high ground. By refusing to engage, you protect your cognitive bandwidth. Every hour spent in a circular debate is an hour stolen from your empire, your health, and your actual goals. Fools are energy vampires. They do not produce, they only consume. They drag you into the mud because that is where they are comfortable. Schopenhauer was notoriously solitary because he understood the porcupine dilemma. In the winter, porcupines huddle for warmth, but their quills prick each other, forcing them apart. The intelligent person must master this distance. You cannot avoid the irrational entirely. They are your managers, your clients, and your neighbors. But you can establish a psychological border. You remain physically present but intellectually absent. You offer them the void, a blank space where their noise finds no friction. By denying them the struggle they crave, you remain the only one in the room with your power intact. While Schopenhauer provides the shield to protect your mind, Machiavelli provides the blade to conquer the environment. Most people treat intelligence as a crown. Machiavelli treated it as a concealed weapon. In The Prince, he famously noted that it is more important to appear a certain way than to actually be that way. If you appear brilliant, you attract envy, scrutiny, and sabotage. But if you appear incompetent, or at least less capable than you truly are, you gain the greatest strategic advantage in human history, the element of invisibility. This is the Machiavellian pivot, the transition from being a victim of your own intelligence to being an architect of your own power. The first move in this pivot is the submission gambit. In a world dominated by ego, the quickest way to disarm a rival or a superior is to feed their hunger for superiority. When you walk into a boardroom or a social gathering and display your mastery, you are challenging the hierarchy. You are forcing the person in power to defend their position. Instead, Machiavelli suggests you do the opposite. You ask for their advice on matters you already understand. You let them correct you on minor, irrelevant details. You nod as they explain a concept you mastered years ago. You are not losing, you are anesthetizing them. By trading a momentary scratch to your pride, you are injecting their ego with a narcotic so heavy they fall asleep at the wheel, leaving you free to operate in the shadows. The second move is weaponized validation. Competitors and fools thrive on friction. They want you to disagree because your resistance proves they matter. To break them, you must deny them that friction. You don't just agree with them. You agree with them so completely that you push their argument into the realm of pure absurdity. In philosophy, this is reductio ad absurdum. In dark psychology, it is simply handing a man enough rope to hang himself. If a colleague insists on a disastrous strategy, do not fight it. Instead, lean in and say, "You're entirely right. In fact, we should accelerate this. Why wait for next month? Let's double the budget today." Watch their eyes. Since you haven't attacked them, they cannot defend. But by forcing them to look at the catastrophic destination of their own logic, you force them to backpedal and argue against themselves to save face. The final move is the strategic illusion. This is the art of the avatar. You do not bring your authentic, sharp, and analytical self to the table for public consumption. You bring a persona, one that is polite, agreeable, and slightly forgetful. This avatar is a mirror reflecting their own noise back at them, while they are busy enjoying the sound of their own voice and the victory of outsmarting your avatar. Your actual mind remains protected behind a fortress of detachment. You are physically present, but intellectually absent. They think they are having a conversation with you. They think they are winning. Let them. The illusion of victory is the cheapest toy. You can give a fool to keep them quiet while you secure the actual objective. Your intelligence is not a bottomless well. It is a high-performance engine that runs on a strictly limited supply of fuel. In the field of cognitive science, this is known as cognitive load theory. Every decision you make, every impulse you suppress, and every complex argument you construct burns through your mental bandwidth. When you choose to engage with an irrational person, you aren't just losing an argument, you are suffering a massive drain on your intellectual capital. You are spending gold to buy dirt. This is the hidden, economic cost of being the smartest person in the room, a cost that most people pay until they are bankrupt and burned out. The problem with a highly irrational person is that they are System 1 thinkers, instinctual, loud and low energy. They can produce a dozen flawed arguments in a minute without expending a single calorie of critical thought. You, the System 2 thinker, must work overtime. You have to map out their logic, identify the flaws, translate your complex reality into their simplistic language, and manage your own rising frustration. You are doing 100% of the intellectual work while they are doing 0. This sustained cognitive taxation slowly degrades your own decision-making abilities. You become irritable, your creative edge blunts, and you begin to make poor choices in your own life because a parasite has fed on your mental energy. To survive, you must establish a psychological quarantine. This is not an emotional reaction, it is a resource management strategy. You must view your attention as your most valuable currency and stop spending it on people who offer no return on investment. If a person is committed to their own ignorance, they are a bad investment. You stop trying to fix them because you realize that their nature is immutable. Schopenhauer believed that character is a fixed constant. A fool today is a fool tomorrow. Accepting this terminal limitation in others is the first step toward reclaiming your own power. You stop upgrading them and start managing them like heavy machinery. You stay behind the safety lines and never put your hands in the gears. This leads to the avatar strategy. When forced into these high-cost environments, you do not bring your authentic self to the table. Your authentic self is too expensive to waste on people who cannot afford it. Instead, you send an avatar, a polite, slightly vacant, and highly agreeable version of yourself. The avatar says, "That's an interesting perspective," or "I see what you mean." The avatar gives them nothing to attack and nothing to feed on. While they are busy interacting with your shadow, your actual mind is miles away, protected behind a fortress of detachment, focusing on your real goals, your wealth, and your vision. The ultimate goal of the silent master is to become mentally untouchable. You realize that the judgment of a flawed mind is, by definition, a flawed judgment. If a fool calls you arrogant, it is a misdiagnosis. If they reject your idea, it is a confirmation that your idea is beyond their reach. When you stop giving others the remote control to your nervous system, the exhaustion vanishes. You move through the world with absolute clarity, saving your brilliance for the few people and projects that actually deserve it. You are no longer a participant in the chaos, you are the silent observer of it. The most dangerous mind in history is not the one that roars, it is the one that whispers, or better yet, the one that remains silent until the trap is sprung. To understand the strategic illusion of incompetence, we must look at the life of Sima Yi, the brilliant strategist of the Three Kingdoms era. Sima Yi served under the Tao family, specifically the regent Cao Shuang, a man of immense power and even greater arrogance. Cao Shuang was suspicious of Sima Yi's intellect, knowing that a mind that sharp could easily dismantle his own authority. If Sima Yi showed his brilliance, he would be executed. If he argued with Cao Shuang's foolish policies, he would be crushed. Sima Yi chose the submission gambit. He retired from public life and faked a terminal illness. When Cao Shuang's spies came to check on him, they didn't find a formidable general, they found a pathetic, dying old man. Sima Yi acted his part with terrifying precision. He let soup spill down his chin, he pretended he could not hear, and he confused the names of his own sons. The spy reported back that Sima Yi was a walking corpse. Cao Shuang laughed. He felt superior. He felt safe. In his mind, he had outlasted the great strategist. The fool's ego was satisfied, and as a result, he lowered his defenses. He stopped viewing Sima Yi as a threat and began to treat him as an irrelevance. Months later, while Cao Shuang was away on a hunting trip, believing the capital was secure, the walking corpse rose from his bed. With lightning speed and surgical precision, Sima Yi orchestrated a military coup, seized the palace, and eliminated his rivals in a single day. Cao Shuang lost his head because he believed the illusion. Sima Yi understood what Machiavelli would later write. A prince must know how to act the fox to discover the snares and the lion to terrify the wolves. But the fox always comes first. The lion's strength is useless if it is trapped in a snare of its own making. Machiavelli observed that the appearance of virtue and the appearance of being ordinary are far more useful than the reality. If you are known as a genius, you are watched. If you are known as a threat, you are isolated. But if you are known as useful but harmless, You are given access to the inner sanctum. You are invited into the rooms where the real decisions are made because no one fears you. This is the invisibility of power. You feed the powerful the emotion they crave most, superiority. You ask for their mentorship. You let them educate you. By doing so, you are not submitting, you are anesthetizing them. You are injecting their ego with a narcotic so potent that they become blind to your movements. This is the transition from being a smart person to being a powerful person. Intelligence is a badge, power is a shadow. A badge can be ripped off your chest, but a shadow cannot be caught. Like Sima Yi, you must learn to wait. You must be comfortable with being underestimated. You must find a twisted, quiet joy in being the smartest person in the room while everyone else believes they are patronizing you. When the moment of the strike finally comes, it is not a debate, it is a conclusion. The transition from a person of high intelligence to a person of high power requires a terrifying shift in your internal psychology. You must dismantle the part of your identity that is addicted to being right. Most people who are gifted with a sharp mind use it as a shield to protect their self-worth. They need the world to see their brilliance because, without that recognition, they feel invisible. But Schopenhauer would tell you that seeking validation from a fool is the ultimate form of stupidity. Why do you care if a blind man appreciates your painting? When you drop the need to be understood by those incapable of understanding, the weight of the world lifts. You move from the theater of the ego to the laboratory of the architect. An architect does not ask the toddlers for permission to build. They do not explain the load-bearing capacity of the pillars to the children playing in the dirt. They understand that the masses, those driven by System 1 emotions, operate on a different frequency. To be truly effective, you must adopt the mindset of the silent master. You accept the world exactly as it is, dominated by irrationality, driven by ego, and hostile to truth. You do not complain about it. You do not try to fix it. You exploit it. You become the invisible hand that steers the narrative while others think they are at the helm. This is the ultimate application of Machiavellian philosophy. Power is not caring if they know you are powerful. This requires a mental withdrawal, not into the woods, but into a fortress of detachment. You must become comfortable with being misunderstood. When a fool misinterprets your silence as weakness, or your politeness as submission, let them. Their judgment is based on a flawed premise, therefore, their conclusion is irrelevant. You are no longer a participant in their circus, you are the observer of it. This level of clarity allows you to see the Dunning-Kruger effect in real time. You watch the fragile ego defending itself, the circular logic, and the desperate need for status. Because you are no longer emotionally invested in the outcome of the conversation, you can manage the situation clinically, like a doctor treating a patient. The final truth is this: you do not owe the world your vulnerability. You do not owe the ignorant your energy. Your intellect is a finite resource, a sacred capital that should be invested only in your ascent. Every drop of brilliance spent on someone committed to their own ignorance is a drop stolen from your potential. The strategic illusion of incompetence is not about being a liar, it is about being a guardian of your own peace. It is the realization that the greatest victory is the one where your opponent never even realized there was a war. You win the objective while they think they won the argument. As you step back into the world, remember the image of the main man, the architect. He is calm. He is observant. He is smiling, but his eyes are calculating the next 3 moves. He gives the world the avatar it wants, the polite, harmless, and ordinary mask, while his actual mind remains miles ahead, pouring the concrete for a future the world cannot yet see. You are no longer a victim of the intelligence trap. You are the master of the strategic illusion. Keep your blade sharp, but keep it hidden. Use your mind for your elevation, and let the fools have their noise. The silence of the master is louder than the roar of 1,000 idiots.